Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Slappin Kpop podcast. I am Kayla, and today I am here with Sammy.
Hello.
And this week's episode, we are continuing our review of K-pop companies, and this month we are on Woollim Entertainment.
Yay, Woollim.
And I am the resident Woollim stan of the podcast, so I know all of the things about Woollim. Well, most of the things about Woollim.
Kayla is the Woollim simp.
I am. There are a lot more groups in Woollim Entertainment than I think a lot of people realize.
There are far more.
There is so much more happening with Woollim than I think a lot of people think, and so we're gonna. I think there's gonna be at least one group on here that people are gonna never know existed.
It was under Woollim.
Yeah, it was under Woollim or existed as a whole. So
fair. The other thing is, like, if this is your first one, your first company review you've seen, we go chronologically through the company. We do not go into the history of the company. We don't find that interesting to us.
Mm-hmm.
We go through each of the groups, give the background of sort of not everything in their history, but like major things, subunits, solo debuts, all of that, and then talk about just the overall management of the groups and how any super major scandals were handled.
Mm-hmm.
We don't go into any of the technical aspects of, like, company history, CEOs, none of that matters to us. We don't care.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is also that, if you are here for us to rip into, I don't want to say we are company apologists, but we do tend to look at these from an objective business perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not necessarily just going to rip into everything this company's
ever
done. If that's all
K-pop companies are bad, just generally. Every single one is bad. There are companies that are less bad, and there are companies that are
more
extremely bad. So it's like we already are coming from the standpoint is that we know all of these K-pop companies are bad, so we're not gonna like rip into every single company. It's more so of like big things they have done that are like notably different than like just generally what we expect out of a K-pop company.
Just generally being a business-oriented K-pop company. And honestly, the thing we're finding is that sometimes these companies are just bad at business.
Yep.
That's like a big thing we're figuring out while we're doing this. And then at the end, we are going to rank this company along with how the other companies were as well. So far, we'll have
out of 10, I think, is what we're doing.
Yep.
And I think I wrote down our scores for the other companies, if I can pull that out. Yeah, so we gave FNC a 9, Starship an 8, and Cube a 4. So we'll see where Woollim ranks there.
Yep, we will give them a 1 out of 10 ranking, 1 out of 10 grade, and then we will rank them amongst
each other's, yes.
Amongst each other.
All right.
And so Woollim is a very old company.
So old. And so far, I think it's the oldest company that we've covered by like a significant amount, I think.
Yeah, because I think the other one was probably FNC
in 2009 with FT Island, yeah.
And now we're going all the way back to 2003.
Yep, so Woollim's first two groups we're not going to spend a lot of time on. Number one, they were before either of us got into K-pop, so we were not around when they debuted, nor to see how they managed either of them, really. They're also not K-pop groups, so...
No, and also very specifically with our first one, all of the interesting scandals we could talk about mainly happened after they switched companies. But, so what was the first group?
So, Woollim's first ever group was actually Epic High. I don't think a lot of people realize Epic High debuted under Woollim.
Because in a weird way, Epic High seems like such a YG group to the point where it seems like almost the blueprint for a YG group.
Epic High is like entirely YG. It's like, I feel like so many people don't realize that they actually started and grew their entire career out of Woollim Entertainment.
Very much so, and they would not go on to YG till 2012. So they were they were at Woollim for almost 10 years.
Yes.
The vast majority of their beginning part of their career.
And Woollim is where they really blew up as a group too. Like they didn't take all the way until 2012, and when they transferred to YG to like blow up. They blew up in 2005, which was 2 years after their debut. And a similar thing happened to Infinite, where the album they released that year in 2005, Swan Songs, was supposed to be their last album. But then it got like massive popularity and its success, and it was able to sort of maintain that group and their career.
Yeah, as you'll
future.
find with a few, with like, especially like this, especially with their first like bigger groups, it's interesting that Woollim almost had this like time limit on their groups where it's like, if you don't meet this milestone, and I'm assuming other companies do that, but like Woollim very famously did it where if you did not meet X milestone or were not popular by like this comeback, you're gonna disband.
Mm-hmm. And I really don't think Woollim had any other options at that point. Woollim had no money, so it was kind of like, if you don't have success by this point, like, we just financially cannot maintain you as a group anymore. So that was like, it's not really on the group's fault. It's just because they came from such a really nothing company to begin with that they just like, if they weren't successful, they just financially could not maintain any more groups at that point. So so Tabo's epic Stanford Scandal actually happened while they were at Woollim. So what happened?
To give background on the Sanford Scandal, Tablo is a very intelligent man.
So intelligent. Graduated from Stanford. Apparently a lot of Koreans didn't believe that. So they gave him a lot of shit for lying about it.
It was a weird scandal with the fact of people just being like, it's such a nothing scandal because it's like, I went to Stanford. No, you didn't. You're lying.
That's a lie. And it was just like, Tablo's like, I don't know what you want from me.
like, I did. Do you want to see my diploma? What the fuck do you want?
It was so bizarre, that entire scandal.
Because it was just people being
because it was
like,
the Korean public just decided, you didn't go to Stanford, that's a lie. You're lying to us. And Tablo was like, I'm not lying. I went to Stanford.
It just is what it is.
Yep.
Because the thing is, Tablo is not American. Tablo is Korean. And it's like very much people also being like, because he speaks perfectly fluent English.
Pretty fluent English,
He speaks pretty fluent. I mean, he did go to college.
Yeah.
Not college. He did, like, he was, I think, in Canada or the US, I believe. I think it was Canada for a while in his childhood. So, like, he did learn how to speak English and everything. But, like, I don't know what about him, like, made people think, because, like, this was even, like, he wasn't going to college while also in, Epic High. Like,
no, he graduated from Stanford, then moved to Korea, and then met the other two members of Epic High, and then they formed a career. Yeah.
And then years later, everyone's like, no, you didn't go to Stanford. I'm like, what? I was so confused.
Yep.
With
it's just a very confusing scandal to begin with.
It doesn't make any sense. I think Woollim sort of didn't handle it.
So Woollim doesn't have a lot of scandals with their artists generally, but when scandals do happen, Woollim's thing is they try to ignore it. They just do not acknowledge it's happening.
They take the approach of, if we don't talk about it, it's not happening.
Yep. And in a weird way that has worked for a lot of their things.
It worked.
I mean
honestly, they cannot put you cannot put your foot in your mouth if you don't say anything.
Right. And so this was bad for the Epic High thing, just because they weren't defending Tabo in any way, so they left him to get roasted by the Korean public for it.
Even though, like, generally speaking, they did, like, there is a very clear thing of course he went to Stanford. There is proof he went. This is
something that was so easy to prove and immediately just completely, like, just stop it happening as a scandal, but I don't know why they didn't do that immediately.
Not to compare it to, like, current K-pop, which is more of, like, a bullying scandal keeps coming up, but at least with a bullying scandal, it's very much more of a he said, she said.
Right. Tabo can literally pull out a diploma from Stanford and be like, what do you want?
I don't know if Stanford will give you these records. I don't know what their policy is, but I feel like you could, like, call Stanford. You can get alumni lists.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like,
you
that's
can get
something that could
that's a
very
thing you can
so
do.
easily be proved. So
Like, this isn't like looking at someone's like medical record. Like, you can get alumni lists from Sanford. It's fine.
mm-hmm.
There's proof.
Yep. After that happened, essentially in 2010, the two other members, DJ Tuckets and Mithra, have to do mandatory military service. Tableau does not, because Tableau is Canadian. While they are in the military, Tableau leaves Woollim and signs a contract with YG. And then when the other two come out of the military, they also go to YG. And that is the end of Epic High under Woollim, essentially. And then now
then they
they're
go
in
on to YG, and it feels like they've always been in YG, but that's
really
mainly because
feels like they've been there.
But I feel like it's mainly just because if you look at because like 2003, there's no culture of Woollim.
Yeah.
But like nothing that came post Epic High sounded anything like Epic High.
Mm-hmm.
So, like,
and if you take a look at Woollim, just like recent Woollim and Woollim sound and what they're known for, it's not Epic High. Like, not at all.
But also the fact of, I think it's the Woollim sound is more influenced by Infinite.
Very much so.
Would only be in the same company as Epic High for 2 years.
Yeah.
Max.
Epic High does a couple of interactions with Infinite for like pre-debut reality stuff, but like that's
about it.
Epic High is like out by the time Infinite is blowing up, so.
And even basically when Infinite debuts, because post
yeah, because the DJ Tuggets and Mithra are in the military when Infinite debuts.
When they're debuting, and then they leave when they get out.
Right.
So it's like, it's all like, it's very much more influenced by Infinite. But we do have another
we do. So in 2006, Woollim signs the rock band Nell. So Nell didn't form under Woollim. Nell formed independently and then signed a contract under Woollim in 2006.
Essentially. So, Nell is very much more, I would not be surprised if most, like, even K-pop fans that are into K-bands aren't particularly that big a fan of, don't particularly know Nell because they're not a K-pop band.
They're not K-pop, they're more in, like, the indie band scene.
They are.
In particular, I know Kim Jongban, who is their main vocalist, he is a very big influence on Sungyu. And Sungyu's solo career, he wrote and like helped like co-wrote and like composed a lot of Sungyu's solo music. It's actually the reason why he's the reason why Sungyu signed under Woollim to begin with. So I think they have a little bit of an influence on. I wouldn't say it's a little bit of Infinite music, but more so Sungyu in particular. But I think Nell's sound has a little bit of an influence on like Infinite music.
I mean, if you listen to Nell, you can hear Nell's influence in a bunch of like Nell for as like indie as they are, especially to like the foreign fans. Mm-hmm. They do have a lot of influence within the Korean music scene. They do, for sure. Very popular. They're very influential. Like if you listen to Nell, you can hear a lot of you can hear it in the music of like that it did influence a bunch of other groups. Mm-hmm. And it is the thing of like they influence, but they don't get like the credit they deserve. Probably. Yeah, they're popular in Korea. In Korea, Nell is popular.
Very much so, yeah.
Maria is a very big fan of Nell.
Nell's pretty good.
Nell is actually pretty good. I
don't listen to a lot of like indie band music, but I have heard like a decent amount of Nell stuff, and I do think it's pretty good.
The thing is, because I think when we say indie, you get for people who haven't heard Nell, I would recommend like hearing a little bit of their music. It's I would call like accessible indie music. It's not super like
right.
Like you can list like if you are a K-pop fan. It's not indie music that's, like, totally out there. It's actually, like, perfectly... Like, if you're into K-bands, Nell is not a jump.
Yes, definitely. And then, because Nell is sort of more well-known, because Nell is popular enough that they left Woollim in 2016, but then they opened their, like, own independent company at that point. Mm-hmm. So they were successful enough and well-off that was something they were able to do then.
Good for Nell.
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
so now we get to the big one.
So now we're gonna hit like actual K-pop. So in 2010 is when Woollim debuts their first boy group, which is Infinite. And Infinite had, like I sort of mentioned this before, had this thing where essentially Be Mine had to win them a music show or else they were going to disband. So
very much so.
Thankful for them, Be Mine won them a music show. So they did not disband and then they were one of the most notable of the second gen boy groups as well.
I mean, you have to think about where Woollim was at this point, with the fact that at this point they had Nell, but Nell is still basically an indie rock group. That's definitely not bringing you in a lot of money. And by
Epic
this
High
point,
is left
Epic High is like, by the time Be Mine was happening, they were already basically gone. But even when Infinite debuted, like, groups don't just leave a company overnight. It does take some time. I wouldn't be surprised if Woollim was already on the thing of like, oh shit, we got to make this next one work or else we're done.
Right. Exactly. That's essentially where they were, because Infinite essentially had to maintain Woollim Entertainment at that point. So if they were not popular, it was again like, we just financially cannot support having another group. So,
and I still remember, like, because Infinite very candidly has spoken about the fact of they were blatantly told, hey, you have to win or you're done. And it was just the biggest relief. You can see full relief in their face when they won. They are
sobbing like tears on their first music show win. And I will say that back in 2012, like early, like second gen time, winning music shows is a lot harder. And I know that is still, I know winning a music show now is still seen as a big step in a group's career, but back then it was really a lot harder than it is now.
Because you have to, again, we talked about this a little bit ago where we talked about this before we started, actually, where it was like, a lot of music shows are a lot based on sales.
Yeah.
And you have to remember, back in 2012, there were just a lot less people buying K-pop albums.
Yeah, it was not an international market then at all.
Not at all. You have to think about, like, even for when we started getting K-pop, that was 2015. Now I can probably go to, like, I literally went to a Target and a Barnes & Noble the other day and just found a bunch of K-pop albums from groups that I was surprised were in stores.
Yeah.
Like, I saw, like, some, like, not full new goo, but, like, slightly lesser-known groups.
I go to, like, FYE sometimes and, like, really random stuff at those stores, yeah.
And, like, you there are now K-pop stores open. I went into New York City the other day, and there were, like, 3 K-pop shops in Koreatown, and they had walls of K-pop albums. That was not there in 2012. Also, like, getting them to the US was probably so much harder. You can buy them now on Amazon.
Yeah.
You couldn't at the time. Like, it was so much harder for an international fan to buy the albums. So it was only the Korean market. And then also K-pop was not this like, K-pop was still seen as a joke.
Yeah.
It's still it's to a lot of people, it still is a joke. But especially at the time, it was seen as something that young girls liked. So the general public didn't have to care.
Right. And it was like, yes, the market was less saturated than it is now, but if you really look into it, there was still like a ton of like unknown, big like new groups at that time. It was just not, it was a lot harder for them to gain fans generally. Like nowadays, I think it's more accessible for people to find them and to like start standing and everything. It was just harder back then, so there was less competition in a way, but there still was a lot there to begin with.
Because the other thing is just also that, like, at least now, even a new goo group, they'll have some fans. There are new goo groups that are just, like, lost to time, that, like, no one remembers.
Yeah, there's a lot of groups that debuted in, like, the 2010 to, like, 2014 space that are just, like, you are never gonna find anything about them anywhere.
Not at all. And it's possible, like, their videos aren't even on YouTube. Like, there's just no record of them anymore. But Infinite, luckily, almost sort of became one of the biggest second-gen groups.
Yeah, they were really... Infinite was Woollim Entertainment for a decent amount of time, essentially.
I mean, other than Nell being there post, like, Be Mine, they were the only big group that they had till,
and even like, when Lovelyz debuted, it was really still the Infinite show, probably until like 2015-16.
Because it was like 16-ish. 2017 when they really started going to the military.
2018 I think was when they started.
So,
yeah.
Ooh, that was later than I thought.
Because Top Seed I think was 2018, and so that's right after that I think was when Sungyu started. He did a solo album and then he did military. So I think it was 2018. Yeah. Infinite had a lot of both solo debuts and also subunits, which is a thing we don't get that often anymore in K-pop. Which is sad.
I do think Woollim. So you can go through them first, but
yeah. So Sungyu's gonna solo debut in 2012, which is pretty much right after I think they started blowing up bigger, and he does decently well as a solo artist. From his debut and even until now, like I said before, his music is very heavily inspired by Kim Jong-un of NEL. Like he takes a lot of inspiration from him.
It's some of his. I love his debut. It's very fun.
It's very good. His early solo music is still some of my favorite. I really like it a lot.
Yeah, I now he's sort of developed into something else. I mean, he just had a comeback. It's a little more chill, and I mean, he's older and everything else.
That album doesn't have any Kim Jong-un on it either, so it does sound a lot different than his other stuff, because I think every single solo album from him up until then had him on there somewhere, so. In 2013, we get Infinite H, which is Hoya and Dongwoo. H for hip-hop. So that is their quote-unquote hip-hop unit, although except...
Quote-unquote hip-hop.
Yeah, so...
I still think both Hoya and Dongwoo are better singers than they are rappers.
Both of them fantastic singers. They're
good. Great singers.
Fully of the opinion that if they train Dongwoo as a main vocal, Dongwoo can be a main vocal easily.
Oh, absolutely. Again, the problem is Infinite just had so many good vocalists.
It was when Sungyu and Woohyun are both there. I mean, there's not a lot of room left for Hoya and Dongwoo to sing when they're both also can be utilized as a rapper.
They're for second gen rappers, mind you.
They're very much idol. Both of them very much idol rappers. I think both of them very much aware of the fact though. And I think that's what I liked about Infinite H, because it wasn't going so hard into the hip-hop that it sounded pretentious or anything. It was very much still idol rapping.
This isn't a fucking mixtape. This was pop rap.
It was pop rap and pop R&B, which is I think that was a good place for them to be, because it made a lot of sense for the two of them as a duo. But it wasn't going so hard into genres that they just were not going to be good at. So
they were very much, and it also did allow them to sing slightly more than they did, more than they do in Infinite. So that was very nice.
What's really funny is that I think Dongwoo and Hoya sing in Infinite more than Sungyul and Sungchong, who are sub vocalists, and then the two rappers sing more than the sub vocalists.
Look.
I will say they are better. I will say they are significantly better singers than both Sungyeol and Sungchong.
Yes, but both of them can be rappers, and I do not see Sungyeol and Sungchong being rappers.
Sungchong and Sungyeol are not the rappers of Infinite for sure.
They do not give rap vibes.
No.
I think it's also vibes.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing with it is that, again, I think Infinite Age had a great thing with knowing to not go too far.
Yeah.
Because they're not rappers.
They're not rappers. And that's I think that's what I've always liked about both Dongwoo and Hoya in Infinite H and as rappers as a whole, is they know that they're not full hip-hop rappers, and they're not trying to pretend that they are. They know where they are stylistically.
And did solo music, they stopped rapping.
Yes. Dongwoo's solo debut, I think, is sostly singing.
Vocals.
Yeah.
And Hoya is
only singing now.
Is only singing. They knew that they did not transition to becoming rappers. They still were we are still singers.
Exactly.
And I love that for them.
I like that a lot.
But it also did help to differentiate them from their Infinite time, which is you're versatile.
Yes, exactly.
They're also probably, I mean, Hoya's the best dancer.
Dongwoo was the other lead main dancer of Infinite, so he was, I think, their second best that they had. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that also.
So the two of them in a unit was really fun. I like
it. It's one of my favorite subunits.
Mm-hmm. So then in 2014 we get Infinite F. Infinite F is L, Sungyeol, and Sungjong.
Love those three together.
It's a very cute unit. They do the OST for High School Love On. That's Sungkil and Woohyun are in.
High School Love On is one of the worst shows I've ever seen.
It's still one of the worst shows I've ever seen. I put it on our original like top 5 worst kdramas, and that is still on there for me. Like, I hate it a lot. It's bad.
So bad. But
that's a cute song. That's whatever song that is. I don't remember the title of it.
It might be the best part of that show.
It's a very cute song. Yeah. It's what is very interesting about Woollim, and this is the thing that Woollim does on albums, is they put a lot of solo subunit songs on their full albums. And so having Infinite H, Infinite F, and then they would give Sungyu and Woohyun solos on the albums is sort of how they would split up the solo unit stuff on their full album.
And honestly, I do think that that's very much a trend-setting thing that they did, because if you look at albums now, like, that's something BTS does on like 3 or 4 of their albums. That's something Dreamcatcher just did on their album.
Yep.
That's something that a bunch of groups have sort of been doing, or at least, I mean,
Infinite was doing that since like I think 2013 was their first full album, and 2012 or 2013. So Infinite's been doing it since then. And then Lovelyz and Golden Child both still do that on their full albums as well. So it's very much
now
a trend
it's sort of
that
become
Woollim
like
has.
a bit of a trend, because especially like with units, like 17 is mixed and matched who did songs on each of their albums. So it's like, I think I like when groups do that, because it does allow for, it's like a mini subunit. If you don't want to commit to a full subunit, just like do a song here and there and just see what happens.
Exactly. It's
Twice even like did like some sort of, I think
they did that. Units. Yeah.
That was fun.
So then in 2016 we get Woohyun's solo debut. Woohyun's gonna do a lot of ballads. He's gonna do, I think, 2 mini albums full of ballads, and then in 2019 he gets like "Hold on Me," which is a more dance pop, which is amazing.
Which is his best song by far.
Every single solo album he's done, apart from the first 2 that are ballads, has been a completely different genre from the last ones, which I think is very fun, which is very versatile.
I think Woohyun is just trying to find himself through his music, and he's going through phases.
He is.
It's great.
So in 2017 is when we're gonna get Hoya leaving Infinite. That is when they hit 7. That's when they hit 7 years.
That was contract renewal.
And that was contract renewal year. And so Hoya is going to leave and go solo at that point. And then in 2019, L is going to leave Woollim. So the thing is that after Hoya, every other member that has left has the asterisks on it, where they have not left Infinite, quote unquote, but have left Woollim Entertainment.
Because here's the thing. Hoya leaves before that is a thing.
Hoya leaves Infinite before that's a thing that happens in K-pop, where you can leave the company and not leave the group.
About, like, 2018, I believe, is the year that started.
Yeah.
And because I believe that is when Girls' Generation did it. And then, from that point on, almost every, like, at least, bigger, like, 2nd, 3rd gen group that is trying to disband is doing that.
Yes.
And it's like, it's such the move where it's like, every once in a while you'll get to a point where like they will make a comeback. And then 90% of the other ones just don't. But everyone still holds out hope.
Yes. Yep. I think the official Woollim stance on it is that they are open to having them do music as Infinite Other Woollim again, but they are waiting to discuss it until L gets out of the military and he's still in the military. Yeah. Which is, I don't think it's out of the picture, because they have filmed a lot of random variety stuff under Woollim still.
It is not out of the question. Yeah. I just think for right now, it does seem like I am shocked we're at the point of K-pop where companies are, like, willing to do this. Because I remember they're just, like, we talked about Cube, like, 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And Cube's fucking pettiness over Beast was the norm, where you're like, you leave, you don't get the name.
Right. I think Woollim
now we're
at
the point where people are willing to fucking negotiate with, at this point, because we'll get to it, but, like, L leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Sungyu, Sungyul, and Dongwoo all leave in 2021.
Yep.
And then Sungjung just left in January.
Yep.
None of these people are currently in the same company.
I think Sungyul is in L's company. I think two of them signed together for some reason.
2 of them are in the same company. Yeah. So that is at least four different companies that Woollim will have to negotiate with.
Yeah. The thing is that every single one of those companies is like a nothing company. It's got like 5 people in each of those companies that they're in.
But it's still like a profit distribution situation. And I'm shocked that we are dealing now with K-pop companies that are willing to do that as opposed to like the pettiness of like 5 years ago.
The thing is I think Woollim is like the least petty of K-pop companies.
It is.
I think Infinite.
They sort of do just let you
I think Woollim has so much goodwill towards Infinite because they essentially founded the K-pop start of their company, and it is pretty well known that the CEO of Woollim is like very close to the members of Infinite.
The CEO of Woollim went on to the Genius with Sungyu.
Like the CEO was like very close friends.
The
CEO
was there.
Yeah.
Like, I genuinely don't feel like there's true bad blood there.
I don't think there's any bad blood between any, like, members of Infinite and, like, Woollim. I think they left because they realized there was definitely conflicts of interest, and Woollim has, like, other priorities other than Infinite and their solo careers
At this point, yes.
But I don't think that Woollim is holding any of that against any of the members who left.
No, and I don't. And I think that, like, for the most part, I do think that as they're... I do think that at this point, probably the members of Infinite aren't necessarily... Because I feel like Woollim would want to continue Infinite as at least more of a constant thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see the members of Infinite being like, we want this to be a sometimes thing, not an always thing.
Yes. And I think that's probably why they eventually left.
Yeah, they want more solo representation.
Exactly. Which is, like, fair. Very fair for them.
Yeah, that's, like, a good thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I do think overall Infinite was just very well managed because they were on so many everything that we said that like other companies don't do, which is like they sort of just kept them doing group activities and didn't let them branch out.
Mm-hmm.
Woollim gave them like every single one of them either had like their subunit with like
a subunit. Every single one except for Hoya, who solo debuted after Woollim, got a solo or a subunit debut under them. Almost all of them do acting or musical theater. I think the only person who has a lot to complain about is Sungjong. Yeah.
Other than Sungjong, like you have L was super into acting.
Mm-hmm.
Infinite H had multiple comebacks.
Yep.
Sungyu did so many variety shows. Like
Sungyu did all the variety shows and had so much solo music.
Woohyun has musicals and his solo music.
Mm-hmm.
Dongwoo also did a bunch of shows.
Dongwoo does a lot of musical theater. He did some solo music. He did less acting than everyone else, but he does do musical theater.
Sungyul does
actual acting and also a little bit of musical theater.
Little bit.
Yeah.
I watched a show with Sungyul in it that was way too long.
One of those like Korean soap operas.
Monday through Friday. I kind of hated myself by the end.
Yep.
The only person that has something to complain about is that they didn't do anything with Sungjung. Individually, he never got shit.
He had absolutely nothing to do, and it's like it's a thing he's complained about often, where he's been like told to go back to being a trainee essentially, and like
that's so
8 years into his career. But it's like I'm not entirely sure if he also really knows what he wants to do either. I think he's very good at variety, but I don't think Woollim capitalized on that enough for him.
I think that he had a very good chance, especially a few years ago, where like he could now be on something like I could see if Sungjung had like established a variety career.
Yeah.
He could be like a staple cast member on like a Knowing Brothers style show.
Yeah.
Because I think he'd be very good at it.
But they just like didn't do anything with him for some reason.
Didn't. Also, like, I'm sorry, we got shit Weekly Idol hosts. Make Sungjung a Weekly Idol host.
I know he guessed it on a couple of them, and he's like pretty good at it. Yeah.
Good.
So I don't know what they were doing with him. I don't know. Sungjung for some reason also stayed at Woollim the longest because he kept renewing his contract longer. He renewed it a year longer than Sungyul and Dongwoo, which was very confusing because I'm like, if anyone needs to leave, it's Sungjung.
Yeah,
so that was
Sungjung
also
should've
very
left.
confusing.
I don't know. I'm hoping he's doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's
yeah,
Infinite.
So currently the only member in everyone else is finished. The only member in the military currently
is
L. So we'll see what happens
and
there.
Woo Hyun is the only member still in Woollim out of Infinite.
Yes, but I also think he's content in Woollim, considering I think his solo music works well with the Woollim.
Yes, I think Woollim is just gonna let him do solo music like maybe once a year, and then he can continue to do musical theater like he's been doing since he's been out of the military. So
again, I think that because there's whenever a group disbands, you always think about like, oh, what are they gonna do now? Like, do they have like active career prospects? I think Infinite is very
every single member of Infinite has active.
Except maybe
Sungjung. That's another.
Who
knows what's going on for Sungjung?
Every once in a while I think about Sungjung and I am hoping he's okay.
Like, what's going on with Sungjung? Who's to say what's going on with Sungjung?
But I hope he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, this is the high point of Woollim. Not that we're getting like there isn't really
a real low point of Woollim, yeah.
But like in terms of highs, we don't reach this high ever.
We're not gonna reach the infinite high ever. In the Woollim's future career.
Because I do think Woollim is still seen as the infinite company.
It really is, and they don't even have Infinite really anymore.
Man, Infinite's dead.
Yeah.
Who knows? GOT7's apparently making a comeback. Who even knows if anything?
Like I said, I think we really have to see what happens when Elle gets out of the military, because that's when they said they would open up the discussion again. So we'll see if anything happens then or not. I don't think it's impossible, but also if they don't get it together,
bring Hoya back.
That would be. I was thinking about that. I was like, what if Hoya decides he wants to come back? I was like what if that happens?
Like they should reach out because he might.
Because Hoya definitely has no ill will between any of the other members of Infinite.
Because here's the thing: I think Hoya leaving Infinite wasn't necessarily like a problem with any of the members of Infinite. I do think he just very much wanted to focus on his solo career.
Yeah.
And I don't think Woollim, I think very much, especially with Infinite H. Infinite H was the only subunit they continued, and I do think that they probably were more comfortable putting in more Infinite H into the world.
Right.
Than letting Dongwoo and Hoya do solo music.
Mm-hmm.
But again,
because Dongwoo didn't debut solo until 2 years after Hoya had left. So I think Hoya, and I think they were definitely prioritized on getting Woo Hyun a solo debut before they were Hoya or Dongwoo or anyone else.
Yeah.
So I think he probably knew that and just wanted to have an actual solo.
He wanted
career.
And like I do feel like if the option was there for him to continue being a part of Infinite,
but on like an occasional basis, I feel like he would be okay with it.
I do too. I mean, we don't know what's going on in the internals of any of these companies, but it doesn't seem like there's ill will. Right.
It's just because he left before. This was a commonplace thing we did where it's like they were allowed to leave a company but not the group. Who really knows what can happen there. But next we're gonna get to a group I am pretty sure most people don't know ever existed.
Hey, I honestly, when you brought them back into my mind, I was like, holy shit.
Yep.
I had forgotten about them.
Yep.
They were not
bad. So we're gonna now go to 2012, where Woollim debuted a duo named Tasty.
Does anybody remember? Oh, by the way, no. Tasty is not because again, I've heard people confuse Tasty with
Tasty
Too Hard.
is not Too Hard.
Not Too Hard.
Not
they do not sing the song Delicious.
No, Tasty does not involve Key of Shiny. This is a different group. No. Tasty is a duo of Chinese-Korean twins that Woollim debuted in 2020. So they did a lot of stuff, like variety stuff with Infinite.
They did.
Infinite H in particular. Like, I think Hoya and Dongwoo are in one of their music videos.
I believe so. I cannot remember which music video, but I believe they are.
They do not do a lot of stuff. I think they
did some. They had a few, like, I mean, they weren't a very long standing group, but I think it was a very much an at least like one comeback a year type situation.
Right. So they're only in Woollim from 2012 to 2015. In 2015, they're gonna leave Woollim under very bizarre circumstances, which is essentially, this is like, who knows what the truth of this actually is, but essentially they just made a Weibo post saying we're gonna leave Woollim and we're gonna promote in China now, entirely without Woollim. Woollim is gonna say that they had no idea that that was happening, but maybe they did. Who knows? There's like a weird back and forth that happened there. Yeah. But essentially I'm pretty sure Woollim just terminates their contracts and lets them go. I don't think they don't pursue any legal action against them or anything.
Yeah.
It was because, so they had expressed, like, frustration about their Woollim's management style and, like, not getting enough support for them, which is, like, I can understand that was probably happening. And so they said that they were just, like, not getting enough comeback, and said that if they were uncooperative, Woollim was gonna, like, delay their comeback time and everything like that. So they essentially went off to China, started releasing music under a new name there. I don't think they've done a lot of anything in China, really. I think they just kind of fell off after a while.
Yeah, nothing particularly big that I have seen, but
I don't think Woollim really did anything about it. I think Woollim was just like, whatever. Like, I think they...
Woollim just sort of, like, was very
passively... Woollim just kind of, like, passively let it happen.
Like, there was no particularly, like, big, lawsuit? Like, a bunch of
they did not, like, go out of their... Like, it was not, like, an EXO situation where it's, like, I think they actually released a couple of Chinese singles before their contracts were officially terminated by Woollim, which is an obvious breach of a contract, but Woollim never, like, sued them or anything.
No, it was just, I think everybody was just sort of like, oh, everyone's unhappy, we're just gonna
let them go, and they
did end up releasing, did do songs in 2016 in China.
Since then, don't know what they're doing.
I don't know. Finding information about, especially the 2015-16 Chinese
C-pop, like, who knows? It's unaccessible.
The weird, because here's the thing I don't think people realize about C-pop. We are still kind of in, like, the infancy of this style of C-pop.
Oh, yes.
So, like, this is like trying to find information about K-pop groups from 1998. Like, have you ever been at the beginning of a music genre?
Yep.
There's, like, nothing going on, because it's still figuring itself out.
Yep. Definitely. And so 2015, and also, it was really in China the infancy. Was hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So in 2013, Woollim's gonna get a...
You know how we don't talk about company drama? We make slight exceptions for big shit. Yeah, this is the big shit.
Woollim's gonna get acquired by SMCNC, which is like SM Culture Contents, which is not fully SM Entertainment, but kind of at the time was SM Entertainment. Yeah, but also like
is SM Entertainment. Yeah. Like, it's like a subsidiary of, like, it's still a part of SM.
Right. They did not really do anything to affect Woollim. They just kind of acquired them and let Woollim proceed as a company as they wished. So, because they were not, like, failing or anything, and Woollim was just, like, continuing to be Woollim, but now just owned by SM Entertainment. So
yep, SM was making a portion of that. What's it called? That infinite money.
Yep.
Because really, that's who they were buying it for.
Yeah.
By this point, Epic High was gone. They still had Nell, but, like, the big moneymaker was Infinite. It was
Infinite, yep.
So that's what SM was buying
Woollim had, really. And then they had Tasty, I guess, but, like, I don't think SM cared about Tasty. And then in 2014, they're gonna debut their first ever girl group, which is Lovelyz. So Lovelyz has a pre-debut scandal. Almost no one knows about it. It's on tier 8 of the Scandal iceberg because I don't think anyone ever talks about it. It was very much, I don't know if the details of it were ever fully confirmed by Woollim. Woollim was very much doing the thing of we're not going to talk about it and ignore that it happened, and people ignored that it happened, so...
Especially for pre-debut scandals, no one knows who this person is yet. You don't have to talk about anything.
Yep. Essentially, to sum it up a little bit, we'll get into more detail in August when it comes up on tier 8 in the Scandal iceberg.
August.
But it involves Jisoo, And it was essentially a bullying scandal, except some girl was claiming that Jisoo had dated her and was also like very like emotionally abusive, which was a wild accusation to be throwing around. And I don't think it was
no proof.
No proof, and I don't think anything about it was ever confirmed, but Jisoo did, just to like not participate in a lot of their like debut era stuff because of it. Woollim said it was for personal reasons, but if you looked deep enough into like the fandom, like you knew that that was what it was about. So,
and then it mostly just went away.
It just went away,
happened.
and Jisoo came back eventually, and everyone forgot it happened at all. So
it's wild,
a wild thing that happened. But after that, Lovelyz is kind of just like always gonna be a B tier girl group. Probably like teetering on like B to C tier girl group territory.
I think that in terms of Woollim, you'd think that with Infinite they would be like at the level of like your FNCs and your cubes and everything like that, but I don't think, other than Infinite, they kind of aren't. They're kind of more of a tier below those companies. So they're like a C tier company. I would put them on par with like, I don't know, they're on par with like current DSP.
Yeah. But it's like I think they're bigger in Korea than they are internationally, which is I think why their success is like not as well known from like Western K-pop fans, because they also debuted with the cuter, they were in like a cuter concept for a while, which is like directly kind of like in that era where a lot of groups were doing that, so there was a lot more competition for that style.
Yeah, because that was the era of like your G-Friend, your Oh My Girls, your, I don't know, April debuted, all of those are all
in
CLC,
that era,
all of that. Twice.
Mm-hmm. And so they're gonna be okay. They're not gonna be mega successful, really.
Not really,
ever.
But they're not
fine.
Unsuccessful.
No, and they're like maintaining themselves enough that they're like Woollim doesn't need to like disband them because they're not financially viable. Like, but also I think by the time they debuted, Woollim's in a better place where they don't have the thing hanging over them like Infinite did, where it's like if you don't get a music show, then you're gonna disband right now.
Yeah, they're not on the verge of bankruptcy where they're like, we can't afford to house you.
Yep. So in 2019, Kay is gonna have her solo debut, and Lovelyz is gonna go on Queendom, and do not particularly well on Queendom.
Not at all.
But they're gonna go on to Queendom.
Also have what I consider to be one of the most embarrassing moments of Queendom.
Yep.
They are the subject of one of the most embarrassing moments of Queendom, which, if no one remembers, it was where, I don't think people remember how funny it was at the time, but when Queendom has the round of everyone switches songs. Mm-hmm. In Queendom 2, none of them, I don't know if they didn't give them the option, I haven't been watching, but
I don't think that was an option in Queendom 2.
I think they learned from their mistakes.
Yeah.
But when Lovelyz had won, I believe the round prior, they had the option of either switching a song with Oh My Girl, because Oh My Girl was going to do their song, or having a different song. They picked a different song and did a terrible song.
And for some reason they chose to do Brown Eyed Girls is Sixth Sense, which is like not at all a song that Lovelyz should have been covering.
They had the option of picking any song in the world, and like an Oh My Girl song done by Lovelyz would have been very. It
would have been better because that's their concept and what they're good at. But in early Queendom, Lovelyz was very much about doing these weird things different. That was not Lovelyz concept.
They did a bad performance.
Yeah.
And then Oh My Girl does a better version.
Does a better version of their own of one of their songs. So.
It is the highlight of that entire season is the Oh My Girl performance of Destiny.
That's like the one performance from Queendom that like holds up that entire season. And that is sort of
the sentiment by the end of Queendom, which is like, oh shit, Lovelyz can't even do the better version of their own song.
Yep.
Like, it's quite unfortunate for them. So, like, that's really... Queendom didn't help them at all.
No, the other thing that was pretty bad is Woollim waits an entire year to give them a comeback after going on Queendom. Yeah. So they did not at all capitalize on any popularity they would have gained out of Queendom. They literally took, I think, the longest out of all of the Queendom groups to have another comeback. So that was, I think, pretty terrible for them. Because, so in 2020 is when they finally have their next comeback. Soojong is also gonna solo debut then. But then they're gonna disband in 2021. And I think at that point, Woollim was essentially just waiting out their contract because they didn't
because they were
feel like they wanted to have another comeback in there before disbandment.
No.
Woollim was just like, we're just gonna wait till they disband. Contract's over and they're gonna want to leave anyway. So
because the thing that you see very clearly with Lovelies is a thing that sometimes happens, especially to girl groups. It happens where like they start out having like 3 or 4 comebacks, then it drops down to like 2 comebacks a year, then it drops down to like 1 comeback a year, then it drops down to like 1 comeback every like year and a half. Like it's like past a full, like it's past a calendar year.
Yep.
And like you're like, where the fuck did they go?
And then it was like nope, disbandment. Here we go.
Then they disband. Like that's sort of the,
here we are.
That's sort of the like progression of a lot of K-pop groups.
Yep.
That's when you know a K-pop group's getting close to being done.
Every single member of Lovelies except for Baby Soul is gonna leave Woollim. Baby Soul is also gonna start promoting under her real name, which is Lee Soojong, which she couldn't use in Lovelies because there was another member named Soojong. So.
Oh my fucking god, Baby Soul is one of the worst K-pop.
It's a stage name for sure.
It's one of the worst
stage
K-pop
name.
Stage names. I'm gonna say that.
Yep. Yeah, that's all essentially Lovely's career. I liked them and their music style a lot. They're were just like never that outstanding in comparison.
A little bit boring.
They were never like significantly outstanding in to any point in time in their career.
Yeah,
really.
there are songs I enjoy more than other songs. However, I just find them a bit meh. Like everything they were doing was very of the time.
Very much so, yeah.
And there were other groups that I enjoyed more that were doing a similar concept. I mean, they had that like dreamy, like almost fairy-like girl group concept, and that was sort of post uber cute girl group. It either went to girl crush or that fairy concept.
Yeah, they very much I think stayed with a similar concept, but just matured it as they as the time went on. Where it's like they started more like schoolgirl, like cute concept, and then it sort of matured into like a more like fairy like concept as it went on, which is like I think that was good for them. I don't think they should have ever done girl crush. We saw from Queendom that was definitely not what they needed to be doing, so I feel like that was good for them. It was just that I think there were other groups doing it better for essentially their entire career, so they were just never getting like all of the attention from any of it.
Yeah, I just think that was like wrong place, wrong time. Like I feel like I don't know. I just feel like K-pop has so changed over the past few years that it's very hard to like come up with a concept anymore because you are just oversaturated in this market where like no matter what concept you choose,
someone else has done it already.
Someone else is also doing it.
Someone else has done it or is doing it.
Or there's like, or more likely like 5 people are doing it because there's only so many concepts. There is no current girl group right now that's doing a fully unique girl group or boy group that's doing a unique concept.
Not at all.
There is too many other concepts. There's too many groups. There's too much everything.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so it's just like it's unfortunate for them, but that's just kind of like how it went.
That's just how that's gonna go.
So after same year as Lovely's, actually, we're gonna get a very short-lived project group
subunit thing.
Project group subunit called Two Heart. Two Heart, it consists of Woohyun from Infinite and Key from SHINee. The reason we brought up that SM CNC acquisition of Woollim is because that's why Two Heart as a subunit can happen, is because they're owned by SM. So they allowed
and they're
Key
both
to make
like
this.
Good friends.
Yeah, Woohyun and Key are very well known best friends at the time, and they were probably like, can we do a subunit together?
Like if we're under the same company.
If we're technically under the same company, can we do a subunit?
I mentioned that Tasty is not Two Heart.
Yes.
Like they're both Woollim Entertainment.
Yes.
but they're not. You'd think Tasty would do the song Delicious.
Two Hearts song, yeah, also being called Delicious, I think makes it confusing as well.
Like, it's just a lot going on.
It's
here.
a lot of a similar aesthetic happening, but yes. I love Two Heart. I
do too.
Would love for that to come back someday. I doubt it will. But
it never will.
It never will.
But dear God, it was of its time, and it's amazing.
It was great. I would love if it feels like we got like an SM station song or something like that at some point in time. That would be really nice. But I doubt that ever is gonna happen. But I love them. The one mini album they did have was great. After Too Hard in 2016, SMCNC is gonna split from SM's music entertainment industry. So that's gonna mean there's like a pretty bigger significant split between the SM company that owns Woollim and the SM that is like SM Entertainment. So yes. SMCNC still owns all of the stock in Woollim. Woollim not going to change at all. Like, the entire time during this Woollim. SM acquisition, Woollim really does not do anything to Woollim.
But it does mean we will never get Too Hard again.
But that is what that means, is that because we're not directly under SM Music anymore, Too Hard probably not going to happen.
That's the only reason we bring it up.
Yep.
So now we move on to
we're in
like
more recent era Woollim, which is like kind of rapid fire. We get a lot of things at once because groups are going to debut much closer together.
Because here's the thing: if you notice that like Woollim sort of took a lot of time to like, I guess, very carefully put together these groups. I mean, you go from Epic High in 2003 to like 7 years later, you get Infinite to. Like, Tasty barely counts. They're a duo of twins. Yep. What else were you gonna do?
Yep.
So 4 years later, you get Lovelies.
Yep.
So then, like...
3 years later, we get Golden Child.
And then it's rapid
but
fire
then after,
every, like,
once
year
we hit Golden
years.
Child, it's like rapid fire things are gonna happen.
It is, like, constant new people arriving in front of me.
Yes. So, in 2017, we get Golden Child, a couple of random pre-debut things. Obviously, Daeyeol is the younger brother of Sungyul. That is, I think, one of the big marketing factors of Golden Child when they first debuted. Oh, dear
God, yes, it is.
Was to try to get all of the Infinite fans in there, and I mean, it worked, so...
It works to an extent, but you also then, I believe at the beginning, they did try to, like, make Daeyeol, like, a big presence.
They did.
For the and then slowly, when they realized that started to fall off.
Yeah, and then Daeyeol got significantly less important in Golden Child as time went on. Progressed. And other members of the group became more, like, popular and prevalent. And Daeyeol was no longer the selling point of the group. Also, a weird thing that happened is that Y and Daeyeol were in a K-drama with
they were
Hoya and L called My Lovely Girl as members of a fake boy group called Infinite Power, which I just think is really funny. I just think it's so funny that happened.
It's such a choice. I mean, they weren't major characters in any way.
L was a main character.
L was a main character. No one else.
Hoya was a side, like a side character,
but,
and then Daeyeol and Y were just there to fill the body count of the boy group.
Yeah. They were like this is a very specific reference only Kayla will like have a connection to. They were the what is it? DBC in
the BDC.
Idol the Coup.
Yes.
Not Idol the Coup. Let Me Be Your Knight.
Yes,
sorry.
yes, that's exactly what they were. They were there to fill the body space of
and
the
if
boy
you knew
group.
who they were, you see them.
And you had fun. And you had it was a fun cameo. I still can't believe
I could recognize a BDC video from like
just like the 5 seconds it's on in the background.
I'm like, that's BDC.
I was like, yep, that is BDC. You're right.
Good to know. But yes, they did some stuff.
So they did
debut.
They debut in 2017. One of their members, J-Stock, is going to leave in 2018. So, this reminds me of something else I wanted to mention, because this is a thing that they have done twice, where Woollim has tried to cover up the leaving of someone with something else.
Huh?
So when Hoya left Infinite back in 2017, they announced Golden Child's debut, I think, the day after.
Ah.
When J-Suck leaves, Golden Child, I think they announced Infinite's next album the day after or something. It's like all I remembered was like they announced someone leaving and they announced something else in the day after to try to direct attention away from it.
I mean, that's also like the SM conspiracy theory where it's like that one like when Jessica was kicked out of Girls' Generation, the same time they announced Red Velvet's debut.
Yes.
It's that kind of thing.
It was that kind of a thing happened, for sure. Which is like, it's weird because it happened twice within like a 2-year time span.
It's gotta be intentional.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely intentional. It was very weird. Jason, there's no really reason for him leaving. He said it was just personal reasons.
I think
there's not a lot of things really speculating.
You find this happens
there.
a lot with idols, where like a good year into being an idol, you get someone saying, "Hey, I need to leave for personal reasons."
Yeah.
My personal theory is always that they're kids.
They probably just didn't like being an idol.
They didn't know you don't know what you're getting into, so like at that point you realize I don't actually like this.
Exactly.
This isn't for me, so I need to go. And that's fine.
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything malicious going on there just because J-Suck was also in Woollim for like a really long time as well. And so I think it was probably he just figured out he didn't want to be an idol anymore and then left. So then in 2020, Golden Child goes on Road to Kingdom, and they get kicked off of Road to Kingdom first.
Before 2.
But then 2 didn't even debut by this time Road to Kingdom was airing.
They debuted when they aired. They did not debut when it filmed.
When it filmed, their debut
sad.
music video came out 2 days after they filmed the first episode of Road to Kingdom. So it was very upsetting. It's the most upsetting thing that happened on that show.
It's wild. They had 2 of the best performances.
They did. I don't understand what happened there.
Here's the thing with Golden Child. I think that Woollim is genuinely trying.
They are.
I just think that, much like how we talk about, again, we get a lot of shit for our CLC opinion, which is the fact that we don't think CLC was that badly treated. But here's a group that we like that I say the same thing for, is like, they are given comebacks.
Yep.
They are given everything. And sometimes a group just doesn't hit with a large enough group of people that they're going to be super successful. And that's no one's fault.
Yep.
It just is life. I wish Golden Child was more successful.
They're not unsuccessful.
They're not unsuccessful, but neither was CLC.
Yeah, so CLC had pretty unsuccessful, to be honest.
But like, they're not Nugu. Like,
no, but that's mainly because they came out of Cube more so than them selling albums. Well, I think they literally sell like 5,000 copies an album. Like, CLC did not do well as a group. Golden Child's selling over 100,000 copies an album now, so
good for
them. They're doing decently well. They did take like an almost over a year break to refigure out Golden Child's concept in between, like, I think 2017 and like 2018 essentially. Yeah. 2018, 2019-ish, because they didn't come back until like the end of 2019 when they came back with like essentially an entirely rebranded concept, and that's kind of where they are as a group now.
Again, I think they're in a good place as a group. I think they're still sort of doing I think they fully know what they are as a group. Like, they can still do the super fun, cute songs every once in a while, but their, like, main bread and butter is, like, your burn it style, your wannabe style music. Yeah. And I do think that was good for them to figure out.
And I do think they are pretty distinct from Infinite as well. I think there's definitely the Infinite style influence in some of their B-sides, but I think what they are doing as a group has been distinctive enough from Infinite that I don't feel like I'm just getting Infinite 2.0 out of them, which is nice.
Yeah. And I don't think that they would, as Infinite 2.0, be very... I mean, I do think that Infinite second-gen style music is having a slight comeback now.
It is, weirdly.
But it's not what I think Golden Child should be doing.
No, I don't really know what Golden Child's concept is, particularly just because it is so diverse now, but I don't think that's a bad thing either.
Yeah. And I also don't particularly know how to describe what that, like, burn it wannabe style content. there's like no clear style there.
Right. But everything they do doesn't feel like it's out of place for them.
It just feels very Golden Child,
Yeah.
but I don't know what call
exactly it is.
That it is.
Right. Which
what,
I don't think
the
that's
words I don't
think it's
exist.
a bad thing that they can just do multiple different things and like be pretty good at all of them. It just makes them put out like a wider variety of music, which I think is fine.
Yeah.
So after Golden Child, we're gonna take a brief tangent into Produce for a little bit. So we're gonna tangent on to Produce 48 in 2018. Woollim sends 4 trainees onto Produce 48, which was Eunbi, Chaewon, Sooyoon, and Sohee. Jury, who is also gonna be on Produce 48 at the time, a member of AKB48, she's later gonna join Woollim Entertainment after that is done filming. Eunbi and Chaewon are gonna debut into IZ*ONE.
Yay, IZ*ONE.
Chaewon's gonna later get transferred into Hybe Entertainment after IZ*ONE disbands.
Yep.
Yep. But
we'll talk about her later.
Yep. And so after,
but you know, she's debuting soon, everyone.
Yep. So after Produce 48, we're gonna get Rocket Punch. So Rocket Punch debuts in 2019. Sooyoon and Sohee, and Jury were all on Produce 48, are in there, and they're very different than Lovelyz is as a girl group. They're very much different. In the like itsy realm of like kind of loud, obnoxious like girl crush music.
Teen crush. I wouldn't go full girl crush. Teen crush.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Sure.
That gives me those vibes.
It's at the same vibes as that a little bit, like in the Wecky Becky style. We're in that realm, yeah.
More that than like full girl crush, like a Blackpink or a or a G-Idol's doing.
Yep.
But I don't know. Rocket Punch is the most shaky group that Woollim has ever debuted.
Rocket Punch is also because Woollim also had like pretty decent vocals throughout all of their groups. Rocket Punch is easily their weakest vocal group ever. It's also just so different than anything that Woollim has really ever done in the past. Because like even Lovelyz, Golden Child, and Infinite, you can kind of look at all of those groups and say like, yeah, that's like a Woollim style group. Rocket Punch is just everything not that.
And Rocket Punch is like a because the other thing is that even if that was their concept, I just do not think that they have the vocals.
They have one vocalist who can carry it, but that's really not enough. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Also, just the overall quality of the songs is real shitty.
They're getting weird songs, and it's like, they're a little bit experimental in the way that they are so distinctive from other Woollim groups, and I don't know if that's necessarily working out for them that well. It's very weird. They're still pretty new. Like, they're going on 3 years now.
And I do think that
but they're still figuring it out.
Yeah, I think a lot of Woollim groups tend to figure it out. I think K-pop groups now, because of the oversaturation, you can't just sort of pigeonhole yourself into one niche. So I do think a lot of K-pop groups now just take longer to figure themselves out.
They definitely do.
If not, it's either they take a while to figure themselves out, or they know who they are from debut.
Yeah.
It's one or the other.
Yep. Rocket Punch is kind of like, now, more recently, their last 2 comeback have been like a weird retro style, loud girl, like teen crush style, which is a little bit more distinctive, because I don't think there's a lot of other groups who are doing that specifically. I haven't liked either of them nearly as much as their first 3 songs, so it's like, I don't know if that's good or not, but who knows.
I don't know, but we also just don't necessarily love that uber retro concept anyway.
I don't. It's also,
well, I do think
specifically the version of it that Rocket Punch is doing is a little bit weird too.
Which just kind of sounds, that ring 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 just kind of sounds like Take On Me.
It's like the most generic version of the retro you could possibly be doing. So it's weird. They're definitely my least favorite of all of the Woollim groups. Just because I liked them, I think, more so in their first year and a half, and then their 2 most recent songs, I'm like, I'm not as much into this anymore, but They're fine. I don't hate them or anything. They're just so different than everything else that Woollim is doing at the time.
Yeah.
So we're now going to take another tangent onto Produce. We're going to take a tangent to 2019 Produce X. Woollim sends 6 trainees onto Produce X. One of them is going to leave Woollim right after the show, but they're also going to gain another trainee, Hyup, who was an independent trainee, signs with Woollim after Produce X. Junho is going to shortly debut into X1 for like a month and a half, or however long X1 existed as a group. And then he's gonna debut into Drippin' pretty shortly after with all of the other members who will sent on to Produce X, plus Hyup minus the one that left, and then also with Alex. And then Drippin' debuts in 2020, and
they're a group. Has a history. So I think Drippin's a group that really needed to find them. I think Drippin debuted a little too early.
They definitely debuted early, and it's definitely Mnet's fault. Because I don't think Woollim was planning to put out a boy group that fast, but then because I think
X1 died.
How X1's contract was set up, I'm pretty sure it was a 5-year contract, but it was a 2.5-year exclusive, 2.5-year unexclusive. I think they were waiting for for Junho's contract to become unexclusive, and then they were going to debut Drippin'. But because
they thought that they had 2 more years to at least figure
out their boy group, but because Junho was given back to them so quickly, they were just like, well, now we got to push out a boy group while he's still relevant.
They needed to capitalize, obviously. Yep. But still, oof.
Every single X1 group, I think, did this exact same thing and had the exact same problem, where the boy groups were pushed out way faster than I think they were ready to be debuted.
Just think about this. Last year, when we did our boy group, because every year we have a podcast episode where we will do the boy group roundup.
The new boy group debut roundup. Yes.
And last year was the last remnants of
the Produce X groups,
and the year before was some Produce X groups were like up and down, but the year before, 2020, very good. Even Drippin' on the higher end. Last year was, I think, where we got a lot of those Produce X groups, and oof.
When did we get them? I think we got most of them in 2020.
2020, but all the like low tier ones.
Well, we got because the only one we got last year was Mirai, and that was, I think,
wasn't Epex one of
them? Epex, I don't think so.
No, I think I might be confusing Epex and Gravity.
Yeah, because in 2020 we got Gravity, Drippin', Wei, and Bay173, and H&D.
All of which had the same problem.
Yeah.
H&D I don't think counts.
Mirai, H&D is like a little tangent off of Bay173, which is fine. We got Mirai last year, and then we got Unite this year, which is the last of the X1
thank
groups.
God that we're at the end of it.
That's the end of that.
But
all of those groups, I think, minus Mirai, I think was pushed out too fast.
And think about this. Unite waited 2 years.
Yep.
Unite's the best one out of all.
Unite is pretty good. I think because they had a lot more time to figure out their shit.
Yeah. I think all of these people needed to wait a little bit, train these people up. But dear God.
I have no fucking idea what's going on with Drippin'. I have a very love-hate relationship with Drippin' because I love the members a lot because I watch them in Produce X and everything. And then they released that W Project 4 song in 2020.
That W Project 4 song is maybe still my
favorite
thing.
That's my favorite thing that Drippin' has ever released, and it's not officially a Drippin' song.
And also Alex isn't there.
Alex isn't there, and also they have a person there that's not in Drippin', but it's fine.
That's not Alex.
Yep. And it's like, I know what I want of Drippin'. I know what I want out of Drippin' because that song is what I want of Drippin'. When they also released Vertigo last year, that's also what I want out of Drippin'. But
Villain isn't.
Villain is going more so in the right direction of where I want them to be. But it just is. It feels
none of it is exactly what I want. It feels like they're all reject Golden Child.
I feel like we're getting light Golden Child and Infinite. Like, Drippin' feels very much more so in the realm of being, like, discount Infinite than Golden Child ever was for me. Just because their concept is a little bit more generic than Golden Child is.
Yeah.
And of their music really just sounds so generically Woollim that it's like...
And here's the thing.
There's nothing happening like with them.
The difference really is that Infinite has the thing of... Infinite can also be... Some Infinite songs can, in the year 2022, be seen as slightly generic. Mm-hmm. But that's because Infinite sort of pioneered the sound. Like, they are the reason that it sounds generic.
Yes, because that was Infinite's original sound, and that's
exactly
why.
That's why we think it's generic, is because we've heard it, because Infinite did it.
Yep.
That's the reason.
And now I have like Drippin' here, like regurgitating out like just a worse version of that, where it's like, this is not at all what I want them to be as a group.
No,
like,
not at all.
And it's just sad because I really want to like them, but their music has just been so up and down that I can't like them.
Yeah.
But just, it's upsetting because I like the members so much, but I like don't like their music that much, and it's just like it's a whole thing for me.
It's a lot. I wish I don't have as many hang-ups on Drippin' as you do. I just don't. I just have been able to say I don't really like them. Not in that I think that they're bad. It's just that, again, much like Lovelyz, there are other groups doing the same thing that I like more.
The thing is with them, I think that is so upsetting to me, is I clearly know that they can be good and like what I want out of them concept-wise, because I've seen them do it before. But it's just like whenever we get around to like official releases, that's not at all what
they're not doing.
We're not doing what I want them to do, and so that's why I'm like, I don't want this from you, and it's like, it's upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
Our last and most recent thing out of Woollim, which is like, kind of, I don't know, it's kind of new because we already knew about Eunbi and IZ*ONE, but we get Eunbi's solo debut in 2021.
Yep.
And that's essentially it.
I think she's doing great.
She's doing great. I think her concept is like
actually works.
It really works for her. I think they definitely have figured out what type of solo music works for her, and she's doing really well at that.
Again, she is, I think, post what is it called? Post Produce Season 1 with IZ*ONE.
Mm-hmm.
They have learned that, taking out of account X1, which again, I think all the X1 boys needed groups because, yes, they did not have enough time alone.
Mm-hmm.
But at least for 101 and for IZ*ONE, I am very content with most of them being soloists.
Yeah.
Because they do have... It is more like a member of a K-pop group than going solo. They have the experience, they have the stage presence.
Yep.
They are not just random.
Because I remember us speculating if Chaewon and Eunbi were gonna go to Rocket Punch, which was like...
We were so scared for that,
it's
and I was
wild
like, that shouldn't be happening.
That they, two of them in Rocket Punch. I'm glad they did it.
Eunbi definitely
I think Eunbi definitely had to debut solo because, number one, Eunbi is too old. Eunbi is...
For Rocket Punch?
She's too old for Rocket Punch. She's also just too old to debut in a group generally. Like, she is, 25 now, and that's like ancient to be debuting in a new group like these days,
like
especially as a
a
female idol. Like, that's like, you're ancient at that point in time.
Yeah.
So I think she had to debut solo, but I also think that she was definitely talented enough to debut solo and to maintain a solo career.
Again, I do think that Chaewon being added to Rocket Punch adds nothing.
I think it makes Rocket Punch better.
It makes Rocket Punch better, but I don't think...
But I think it's worse for Chaewon. I don't think
it saves Rocket Punch.
But I think it makes Rocket Punch better, but I think it's worse for Chaeyeon as a whole.
I think it's worse for her, and I also do not think it adds enough popularity to Rocket Punch to be worth adding her in.
Yeah.
Whereas in now, she is debuting in a completely fresh group.
Yeah.
With, like, a bunch of... No offense, a company that's going to give her a lot more than Woollim could.
I am very interested how that, like, transfer even happened, because Chaewon was technically just a Woollim trainee, but then was somehow transferred over to HYBE.
Is this like a soccer thing where, like, did they just pay Woollim and were like, we want her?
I honestly, like, that's probably what needed to happen, is they had to give Woollim enough money to get them to transfer Chaewon over to HYBE.
Because the other thing with that is I feel like, doesn't Chaewon already have a feeling of, like, they're not gonna add me to Rocket Punch, and I'm not. They're gonna do Eunbi's solo career before mine,
Right.
or before they even think about debuting another girl group.
Right.
With God knows what members.
I really don't think there was a good future career for Chaewon at Woollim to begin with. So her going to HYBE was definitely the best.
I also wonder what the contract for her was looking like, if maybe they were like close to the end of like her not gonna sign,
because she was
to be
also at
the
like
group.
A trainee contract under Woollim at that time too. So I think it was probably easier for the HYBE transfer to happen too.
Yeah. I think it was probably amicable.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Knowing Woollim with the way they handled Tasty, maybe they didn't even want money. They're like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Bye. Have a good night.
I think knowing the fact that she was in IZ*ONE and was one of the more popular
I know,
members
but
of
I
IZ*ONE,
like
they
to
had
I like
some
to imagine
leverage
that
there.
I like to imagine that they're just like,
Mm-hmm.
bye.
I know she's definitely on good terms
write.
with both Woollim and with Eunbi. When Eunbi had debuted solo, she got asked a lot of questions about Chaewon, and she's like, I can't tell you anything, but she misses everybody. And it was like,
aww,
because I think she knew that the HYBE transfer was happening, but like obviously, like
she can't say anything
about it. Yeah,
because there goes the money that Woollim's gonna get if she says something. I'm just excited for her. I think that this entire situation just ended. Weirdly, I think this entire situation just ended well for everybody.
I think it's the
no
best.
one is animosity.
Yeah. I think it's
no
the
one
best for that.
No one made any sort of snippy comments.
Mm-hmm.
No one is angry. And, you know, Woollim doesn't have to scramble to make a girl group around Chaewon.
If I can give Woollim
HYBE
anything, I think Woollim is like good vibes for the most part, because
they are
so
good
many
vibes.
people have left them and they're just like, we wish them well and like have no bad energy with them at all or anything, because it's like they're just like pretty chill when stuff like that comes up. They're not like
absolutely
petty central like Cube is over there.
God no, not petty central.
Yep.
And also, I think we've avoided saying it. Lisa Seraphim, I think, might actually be good.
I think they're probably gonna be good. Yeah.
I mean, we already bought the album.
I did already buy the album, so I hope they're good.
So did I. I did, because I saw that
I mean, I like 3 out of the 6 of them already, so it's like,
yeah.
I don't, even if they're like bad or whatever,
and
which
like,
I don't think they're gonna be bad.
If there is one company that I simp for, it's HYBE.
Mm-hmm.
All of the HYBE conglomeration.
Yep.
So that's the end of Woollim.
That's Woollim Entertainment.
What do we grade Woollim?
I don't know.
Are we doing halves?
We haven't yet.
Because here's the thing. I think Woollim is up there. However, I think other than Infinite, Woollim is kind of not able to maintain like FNC. Because FNC, with like the notable exception of one group that was for like almost outside reasons.
Yep.
Has sort of been able to keep everybody happy and content.
Right.
And continuing to make music even when everyone's gone.
Woollim clearly loses people. I've lost like everybody over
amicably.
time.
Amicably.
Right, like not under bad will or anything. It's just like because different career directions.
Lose people.
They do.
Exactly. Everyone's happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I would put them below FNC.
Yeah.
I'd still put them...
I think they're above Starship, just because I don't think they have botched any scandals, really.
No, I don't.
Because the scandals that they do have, they
had
just
anything
like
to do.
Number one, like I think Woollim is like one of the. It's probably the most scandal-free company, and when they do have a scandal, I think they know when it's kind of useless and just need to ignore it. Which I think is kind of the good thing to do with a lot of scandals, when there's like no use of even talking about them. So
fair. And then also the way Starship botched Boyfriend, I will never forgive.
Well, Woollim hasn't really botched a group either.
Not really. And I do, like, you can say that, like, their groups aren't as popular, but also I do think that's not
their fault.
That's not their fault.
I think that's like a general, like, just how the K-pop industry works kind of a thing.
I think to keep it simple, we don't give any half points.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just give them also an 8.
Let's give them an 8.
And then we put them second for right now.
Yeah, so far, they're an 8, but they're a better 8 than Starship.
They're a better 8 than Starship, but they're still overall an 8 out of 10.
Yes.
So it's now, currently it's FNC, Woollim, Starship, and Cube and a
distant 4th.
Cube in a distant fourth, but like they're gonna go lower.
They will. They will definitely continue to go lower in the list.
And so let me see here. Next month
is a 2-for-1.
It's a 2-for-1 because we kind of want to do because
we really wanted to do Fantagio, but then today we realized we don't have enough on Fantagio to do an entire
full episode
on Fantagio.
So we're doing Fantagio and Jellyfish Entertainment.
Yep. The two of them don't have a lot of anything to do with each other.
The two of them have nothing to do with each other, but each of them only has 3 groups, and we can't do a full episode on 3 groups.
So but the groups that they do have are like prevalent enough that we kind of want to
that we have to talk about them. Yeah.
So you're getting
and
Fantagio,
they're some of our favorite groups.
Yes. So you're getting a Fantagio Jellyfish 2-for-1 next month.
2-for-1. I don't know. There might be some parallels where they can. I don't know.
Who does? Because let me think about it. Is there any kind of connection we have there?
No.
Not really. You guess you got the Wacky Becky Goo Goo Don thing with the IOI.
With the eyes IOI thing.
So yeah, there's that, I guess.
There's that. That is the closest connection we can have.
Yep.
I was trying to think if anybody was on, like, Kingdom or Queendom or anything, and I'm like, none of them.
No, because
none of them.
There's like the Produce, I guess it's just Produce, but like Ong Sung-woo was on Produce season 2, and then they have that kid from that just random kid who was in Idol the Coup who was on Produce X in Jellyfish. But it's like it's just generally not a lot.
It's just generally there. 2 mid-sized companies that both of us really like. Is that not reason enough?
It's 2 mid-sized companies that don't have a lot of groups but are still very important in like the K-pop company realm. So
yes, that are still like talked about.
Yeah.
And like respected. I think that they have more I feel like Fantagio and Jellyfish have more respect than like Cube in a weird way.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone respects Cube.
I think everyone at a whole is kind of just like, Cube Entertainment fucking sucks. Like, they're bad.
Even the artists under Cube Entertainment.
Yep. But yes. We will be giving 2-for-1 next month on the K-pop company reviews.
Every episode is just shit on Cube episode.
I think it's warranted. They suck.
It is.
Cube Entertainment sucks.
It is warranted, but it's just fun.
It is very fun.
That it's every episode.
Because if we're gonna continue to rank them, and Cube is gonna be so distantly in 4th probably the entire year.
4th and then lower, because honestly, I'm looking here at the companies we have left.
I think the only ones that are gonna be until we get to the big 3. Like
there is
Cube,
the big 3.
We're gonna get close to the Cube score in the big 3, but like I'm looking at without giving away the companies we still have. All of these other companies, other than the big 3, are definitely above Cube. Like, not a single one of these are below Cube.
And then with the big 3, we are gonna have some discussions.
We're gonna have to discuss that a lot because there's so much going on there that we're gonna have to talk about.
We're gonna discuss, but I do think overall, for right now, Cube does seem like the worst company we've covered.
Pretty bad because we're not gonna get to TS this year. So like, there's no one else in competition.
Oh shit, Kayla, did we even add TS to our list?
TS is on the list of ones we should get to eventually.
Okay. I didn't remember if we added them.
Yes. But yeah,
so that's been
the only other company that would be down there with them right now, so.
Oh, absolutely.
But that's been Woollim Entertainment. We are available on all major podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're listening to us on a place where you can leave us a review, please do so. We also have a YouTube channel where we post all of our episodes along with a extra fun clip video every week. And we also have a Instagram and a Twitter that are linked in the description of every episode. And with that, we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.